What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, the cool show. We interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. I'm Greg, and this is my cool friend, Fran Mirabella the Third.
What's going on? Happy to be here.
Your shot looks way better than mine, and I'm not a fan of that. All right, everybody else has gone to work from home, Fran, and they all have Logitech webcams. Just like it's universal.
Like
that's Troy Baker had it. Alana had it. That's what I have. That's what I'll kind of. You come in. What do you got? You got some 4K major motion picture thing.
They're not sponsoring me, so I'm not at will to discuss the proprietary technology. No, it's a Sony A6400, but it is like an HDMI cam, which obviously I stream with as well. It's my window to the world. So I splurged last year, actually.
Your window to the world.
Window to the world.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it, Fran. Fran, if someone doesn't know you, how do you describe yourself?
Oh boy, I'm not prepared for this show at all.
I'm glad. Thank you. Thanks for looking at any of the other episodes. You know what I mean?
Right?
Just thinking
I have. I was just meaning like mentally. I got to rehearse a few times. Yeah. So, in terms of obviously what I do professionally, I am a producer, a host, a streamer, a content creator, and it's pretty much that. I think actually, as we'll probably get even deeper into, as I left IGN and diversified, it's honestly always hard for me to boil it into one thing because I kind of diversified, trying to lean into all the different things that I love now.
So, how has quarantine gone for you with all this? You were already doing the streams nonstop, twitch.tv/FM3_, of course.
Thank you. Man, I mean, the quarantine thing's a whole ball of wax, right? But what I'll say in terms of work, thankfully, right, I'm lucky to have a part of my job that, a major part of my job streaming, and I was already doing that. I already did that from home. Already had adapted to that life for a long time now, over a year. So pretty easy for me. Yeah, I was already set up. I didn't have to scramble to buy a webcam. I actually saw they were sold out in some places. I was thinking there's probably some people who, were trying to get into some of this stuff, and everybody's buying them for Zoom. And but anyway, mostly good to go on that. It was more about losing all the other things, which is like, when am I gonna, like, how and when do I work out, and distraction free, the mental burden of this whole thing, and when do I go to the store and all that schedule. So it's turned into more of like, the new things in my life are like now, cooking. I always like cooking, but I'll usually sacrifice the amount of time I would do on that for things like fitness or just other stuff, well, mostly that. I had another thought in there, but yeah, stuff like that. And then, that's what I was going to say. Sorry. Two things were that, cooking more, cause I've always loved cooking, and then, making more time for streaming. So I've been going live earlier, which is something that I've always thought a lot about, but I haven't really, changed my schedule too much. I'm a late night streamer here in California time.
So what I find interesting about you, Fran, of course, is that you are constant. You are timeless. Everyone is connected to Fran, right? Of course, you were at IGN for so long, and so many of our relationships come out of IGN.
I'm the Kevin Bacon of...
Exactly. 7 degrees of Fran Mirabella. But
it probably would work pretty well.
2 degrees for most people, I think.
Yeah.
But the question I have that I'm going to take a long walk to get to is this. You're connected to everybody. Everybody knows you. Everybody loves you. I think when you finally came on Kinda Funny for the first time, and it was, post IGN, really. So your first real appearance, I'll say, right?
Yeah.
Post IGN, you were already streaming and getting, you were independent. We had this conversation on air where you were like, well, I feel like I already, even though I've never been on stuff before, I already feel like I have, because I'm already a character in the community. Every time Nick talks on a podcast, there's going to be a Fran story involved in some way, shape, or form. I want to know how you're doing, because I think the conversation I have with so many people, because everyone I know knows you, it eventually comes back to, how's Fran doing? Because everybody loves Fran. And I know that when you left IGN and started doing the streaming thing, for so many, I think, people who aren't doing what we do, aren't content creators, aren't streamers, but are still tangentially related through the web of IGN, it seemed like a crazy move. It seemed like this, wait, what? Fran's doing that? Fran was running the video team. He wasn't on camera that much anymore. Now he's going off and doing all this. So throughout your independent career, whether it be somebody from IGN, whether it be somebody who worked at IGN, whether it be somebody who we just ran into at a VidCon, it'll inevitably come to how Fran is doing, because they see you streaming at all hours of the night. They see you constantly working out, and everybody wants to make sure you're mentally okay. So now that you can't leave your apartment, you have to worry about all this stuff. Are you okay,
Yeah.
Fran Mirabella III?
Definitely. Just let's define. Do you really mean like how are you doing mentally, like as a person, not like whatever, like how's business and all that stuff?
Well, yeah, because I mean, like you're a quagmire, Fran Mirabella, because everybody loves you and everybody knows you, but I think that the pro and con, that's not the right way to say it, I guess. The double-edged sword of IGN was, right, that we all worked together, we all worked crazy hours, we all went on crazy trips. So you had that bond, right? Where it was that I remember saying all the time, we're a family, right? And then when I left and we started Kind of Funny, it was that realization that we weren't. And not that we weren't family in the way we hate each other or something like that, but in the way that it was like a brothers in arms kind of thing. And when you break away and do your own thing and spiral out, you then have different levels of friendship or acquaintances and things like that. And I think everybody truly loves you, but the fact that they're not with you on a day-to-day basis anymore, they don't get the actual minute-to-minute update of what is going on with Fran.
Yeah. No, it's true. You know, it's interesting, like you said, because when we were all at IGN, and there's so many people, you know, that I've worked with that are in the industry, and then they just don't, you know, see me that often. Part of that is being a streamer. A big part of it is that, yeah, I have focused, you know, since I left IGN on wanting to build the best, most sane, you know, mentally clean, you know, life that I can have. You know, it hasn't been all about the money. It's been about, yeah, because like for so long, like I would wake up with, you know, the general stress, and you go to bed with the general stress.
Sure.
I mean, I was you know, already streaming for about 3 years when I left IGN, but that was, you know, after working 8 or 9 hours a day, and
I know.
depending on the trips. And exactly. And I would come home and I'd be, you know, getting 5.5, 6 hours of sleep every day of the week, except for the weekends. So anyway, I was like, all right, I want to focus on, you know, that stuff. So yeah, like a lot of it's been like, oh, sweet. You know, I can mentally focus and have like this, I call it clean mind, I guess, like not scattered with all these other concerns. Because again, like at IGN, if folks didn't know that you're watching, you know, I went from being a news reporter and reviewer, just like you, in 2000, all the way up through starting the video team, late 2004, 2005.
And correct me if I'm wrong, they took you off the reviewing scene once you fucked up the Mario Kart Double Dash review, right?
Not true. Not true at all, Greg. Don't you try. Don't you dare try. But yeah, so I did all those things, and it turned into, obviously, you know, managing a very big team, which grew at times with freelancers to over 40 people or 50 even, I think. And so anyway, with all that aside, yeah, I focus very much on like, okay, I need to do these things that are normal in your life, you know, without this, like, I have 1,000 emails, 1,000 worries. I mean, part of that's been like, right. So we have a mic problem?
Yeah, could you turn up your mic just a skoshando? You're just being a little quieter than I expected.
No problem. I can also bring it in a little closer, which should help. But let's go ahead and
give it a little bit more. You're coming in and around. Well, you were coming in around -20. I'd love to see you around -10.
Do you already have me boost? Here, wait. I got my output volume. I don't know if this is going to change it. Is this changing it, Kevin?
I mean, right now you're coming -10, -15. So yeah, I think that's much better.
Is this changing it? Is that better? Are you getting more out of it? I'm not sure that you are, actually, because in other words, my input volume is max. Oh, you know what I can do? Hold on.
Just can you turn up the gain just a little bit?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually crank my gain here. Okay, let me know. Is this making a difference?
Oh my God, Kevin, don't apologize at all. This is what you're here for. You're a producer.
Yeah, let's not have the whole show be Fran quiet, because I want to be booming with the stories. Here, Kevin, I'm turning it up. Yeah, it's good. I can go. I mean, I can go higher if you need.
Go a little higher.
Let's see. Is this too high?
No.
Are you sure you're getting a difference? Like, is this changing it?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow,
I mean,
I'm cranking it now, man.
You're higher.
Can't we just turn them up on your desktop? Wouldn't that fix it, Kevin?
Well, it'll also turn you up, though. And then we'll
right, because it's not me. I see.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's test. Am I changing? Is this turning it up, Kevin? It's hard for me to see like my volume knob. So
turn it all the way down. Just turn it all the way down. See what we do.
Yeah, let's test that. Is this the one?
Oh, that's no good.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is it. Here, this is all the way up. That's cranked. So we can't get louder than that. I mean, this thing's like cranked. You know what it might be? Is it? Does that change anything, Kevin? Through Discord?
Keep talking.
The This is like as loud as possible. If that's it, that's kind of crazy.
You sound somehow quieter, right?
Yeah, I got quieter somehow.
Yeah, you got quieter.
Right now, it got quieter.
Yeah, well, than you were when you were doing all the tests and the things before.
Yeah. All that stuff.
I have not changed it. Hold on. Are we sure this isn't it?
That sounds good.
Hold on. Let me turn this off again one more time, everybody. This is live video production. What do we do?
Oh, yeah. If everybody doesn't know, remember, of course, we have to work from home because of the quarantine. So this is the kind of content you got. You guys wanted the garbage truck on fire. You're getting it.
Is he messing with us right now?
Okay, that's the one. That was muted, right?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I had that hold of the wrong knob before. So here, we're going to crank it.
Oh,
tell
now
me when,
talking.
Kevin.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Tell me when, Kevin. Still more?
Well, no, it's too high. It's too high. But you say tell me when, and then you stop talking. You know, so it's tricky.
It must be getting muted or something like that through Discord. It's my guess.
Turn off the auto muting. Yeah, no. He's messing with us, right?
No, I'm not. We might be having Discord problems, everybody. So
no, I mean you just sound quiet. It's not muting you. Well, I mean now that you're lowering it, there's the auto.
I'm not lowering. Just so you know, here I'm at about.
This sounds great. Right here, if you can talk at this level, at this close, I think you're fine.
Kevin, what do you think at this level?
Talk a little bit more for me.
Gonna keep talking, and I'm gonna turn it up.
Yeah, this is much
more.
better. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now it's perfect. Says someone in the chat. Nailed it.
We thought we had it. You know, honestly, Discord for everybody listening and watching can be a little finicky.
It wasn't Discord. It was you.
Well, I mean, I stream.
Agree to disagree. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is We Have Cool Friends, our cool show. We interview our cool friends. Of course, it's part of Kind of Funny's irregularly scheduled programming. However, trying to get a little more regular. Looks like while we're doing this work from home thing, Mondays will be our day. But of course, that will change, I'm sure, with schedules, interviews, all sorts of different things. If you like it, of course, go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, where you can get each and every episode of We Have Cool Friends ad-free, and you can submit your questions for the Friend Zone. Ask people questions. And Fran, you got some doozies coming your way eventually. Don't worry about that. Of course, if you have no bucks to toss our way, it's no big deal. You can watch us record the show live on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. You can watch it later on youtube.com/kindoffunny. No, that's not right. No, that's right. youtube.com/kindoffunny. And then you can, of course, get it as a podcast on podcast services around the globe. Remember, wherever you get it, please like, subscribe, share. It is one of our newer shows. It does still need that traction, those iTunes reviews, your Spotify subs, all that jazz. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Mohammed, a.k.a. Momo, Justin Toft, Das Bear Jew, Blackjack, and Downtown Jarrett Brown. Today we're brought to you by Manscaped, but I'll tell you about that later. Back to the one and only Fran Mirabella.
Before we do that, just one last thing I want to say. There is a small echo coming through. Just a tiny
I can
echo
fix that. I can fix.
Greg Miller.
So
it's tiny.
That's okay. I know. I have open ear headphones. You probably can't hear it as much now. No, it's a good thing. I was going to ask you about it earlier. I have open ear headphones, so I just turned the volume down on my
open ear headphone?
It means there's no backing to it. So
okay. You got the sides open.
So if I ever turn my head, it'll be worse. But I won't be doing that. So it should be pretty good now.
I'm sure we're going to talk about your hair at some point. You're going to have to model it and turn your head. So don't worry about
like that.
So then back to the question. So first off, then let's take it in two parts. Leaving IGN, doing this streamer thing, are you in a healthier spot, period, do you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. I loved working at IGN. I have no problem with IGN. This
is where we air all our problems with IGN. Don't worry about it.
No, but it just like
Eric Schneider through the streets. This is it.
In other words, I feel like when we talk about it, there's like this edge of how busy we were because you have the world on your shoulders at a place like IGN. I mean, you guys do to some degree as well, but like when you cover everything, you miss everything. And so that was just part of it. There's always more to do. E3 was always around the corner, not this year. But
now they're throwing their own E3, Fran. No big deal.
Exactly, I know. Exactly. You fill in those gaps. But the point is, I loved my job, but it turned into, and maybe we get into that if you really find it interesting, but I was more on the business side of stuff. I had to worry about when people were leaving, like when Alana left, right? I was the person sitting in the room being like, oh, awesome, here's what you want to do, but here's one reason. Yeah, exactly. Here's maybe why you want to stay at IGN. Like I was managing Alana at the time, and it was awesome. But that was my job. It wasn't to be out there like your crew and the viewers and listeners see me, which is doing content, which is a lot like when I started.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. So when did you start at IGN?
2000, August of 2000, right before Nintendo Space World.
Yeah,
which was a thing back then.
So
a very long time ago.
I, of course, know the story, and some people do, but let's get the comprehensive Fran Mirabella story, all right? So you start in 2000. Before that, what fan site were you working on?
Yes, it was called, Dolphin Cove,
Dolphin
and
Cove. Okay.
that is because GameCube was called Project Dolphin.
Yeah.
And that all started, by the way, because I was a fan, just like everybody else is out there in gaming today. And I was on the same, effectively Reddit at the time. It was just forums and reading fan sites. And of course, that was back when there were more like .coms that you could visit for your news versus a Twitter feed.
Yeah.
So anyway, I like corrected somebody on, I think it was like a spelling of a planet in Metroid or something they messed up about Metroid in a story. And they were like overwhelmed with trying to run a fan site. And they, I probably had a very well formed email, and they were like, do you want to like write for us? That was that fast. And I was like, I was already staying up till 5 a.m., between college and everything, like photoshopping and writing on forums about, oh, the GameCube will be the best thing in the entire world. Actually, funny story, got banned on Gaming Age because I wrote this
banned on Gaming Age
diatribe of like why I was so excited for GameCube, and I wrote this speculative, like, it's gonna be incredible. And I guess it was like
that was too much.
It was too much because I think I was like, I don't know. Somebody just didn't like me there at the time. So
no, I can't imagine that. Come on.
So yeah, that's kind of where it started in terms of the fan level stuff. That's what I was doing at the time. Like anybody would start a YouTube or a Twitter feed or news channel of their own, but I was going to college at the time and all that. And then
so full stop. 2000. Well, I guess 99 probably when you start this.
Yeah, that was in 99. I actually freelanced for IGN, I think almost in late 99. It was early 2000.
How old are you?
Oh, 19.
Yeah. Geez. Okay. And then I don't know this. Where were you going to college? What were you going to school for?
Oh, yeah. The really interesting story, well, maybe for some, University of Cincinnati, and I was going with the computer engineering program, which was going to take quite some time. Now, the real story behind that, though, was my love for video games. My dream was to design a console to make the hardware, the graphics chip. So I didn't want to code games and make games, although that, very well could have happened. Like, who knows where that path would have led. But I was obsessed with the advancements in, like, silicon and, like, where everything was going. And it just excited me. So I thought, man, my dream. I would, at the time, too, I'm like, ooh, Sega, Nintendo, I don't care. Microsoft wasn't even a thing for consoles at the time.
Did you think you'd have to move to Japan?
Oh, yeah, I would have loved to do that. So, yeah, I didn't have to do any of that as part of my degree at the time. But that was actually a potential, by the way, was that I would do what do they call it? Not a residency, but I would have gone overseas for a few semesters or whatever.
Okay. Masters. I see where you're going.
Maybe.
Why?
So
you were because you're a Joliet boy, weren't you? Right? Did you go from Joliet over there?
Yeah, I didn't live in Joliet. I was living in Morris before that, a very small town outside Joliet. But yeah, we're both from. That's right, both from Chicago area. So it was because I looked at a number of schools, but part of it was like the financial decisions. And my dad, his job moved to Cincinnati. And so it was in state that had a good, engineering program. And it was like, oh, okay, this just makes sense. Like, I don't want to be in debt, and go to somewhere. I looked at some other very expensive schools and I was like, I don't even know, and I know some people make that choice. But I do hear a lot about, obviously, school debt. And I'm really glad that I ended up making the decision that I did. A small, quick aside, if anybody didn't know, actually, the other path that I seriously considered was to be a doctor. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I really, really wanted to be. No, yeah, like just a doctor that helped people because I just saw too many experiences where I felt like, I don't know, it just seemed like a business to them, and it's not just business when it comes to that. And I thought that I could do it way better than people that I observed going to the doctor as a kid and helping me or family members or whatever.
What in the end, obviously. So, like, did you graduate and then go to IGN, or did you just bail on it and go to IGN?
I bailed, yeah. It was 2 years in. So from 1998 to 2000 in college, did some summer credits and a lot of credits. And that's what, was burning me out doing that, and then going home and learning Photoshop and HTML. And that was the other stuff I loved. And anyway, it was a couple of years in, and I was doing the fan site stuff. So summer of 2000, IGN had already been in contact with me for about 5 or 6 months. Funny story, because I think they thought I was a girl.
Yep, that's the old one I remember being told, that like Cass
Yeah.
Messina saw you on some website and was like, this
This
woman
chat room.
Fran knows about Nintendo.
Yeah, the official IGN chat room. So they knew my work, and my username was Fran3, right? Fran Mirabella the third. That's FM3.
Yeah.
Some people don't get that, actually. They're like, why is he FM3? Oh, it's arcade initials, by the way. FM3. If you ever find an arcade machine out there with a high score, that's mine.
It's never been turned off.
it's like in Seinfeld.
25 years. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I was in some chat room, and I legit think that Matt. He said, I know that he thought I was a girl. Like, let's be honest. At the time, he thought that. That's not the only reason he contacted me, right?
Sure.
I'm not trying to make
it helped you stand out,
creepy.
though, right?
Yeah, it did, because at the time, honestly, it was dominated by male industry, and so yeah.
Thank God that's been put to rest.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting there, right?
Yeah.
It's getting better. But so yeah, 2 years, and then so I had already been freelancing. I didn't know where that was going to go. I actually said, probably out loud, even was like, that's what it was. It was 6 months before that I got the job offer to IGN, and they were like, hey, you should, if we ever have a job, you should think about it. And I think I was like, man, I got college. What am I going to write? Tips and tricks. Like, not that I didn't respect it. I was like, how am I going to make a living? I come from brick and mortar type town. Yeah. I'm like, my grandpa was a fireman. My dad's a scientist. I knew the doctor around the corner, and the across the street was a veterinarian. Like, that's just how I thought those were your career options. And this was sort of like, who knows? Little did I realize now, looking back, how much I liked things like writing. I was always good at, English and creative writing, and then also photography and stuff. And like, interesting that all these things blended together. Because again, my dad is like a very, I always joke, he's Professor Frink, super smart PhD scientist type guy. Yeah, actually carried, calculator around. People would say things like, whatever, I wonder how long this would take to get this to the moon if I did this. And he'd be like, well, let me just. And so there was that side of it. And then on my mom's side, it was like, she was more like, I guess, the creative type, but those two things blended, and who knows, all my other influences, and here I am.
So were they supportive of you going for computer stuff for school and then bailing on school? Like, were they down with it?
Yeah. I think surprisingly, my dad was very supportive, which shocks me looking back. I could definitely hear the concern in his voice, but I think he saw the distress that I didn't like university. It wasn't the college life. It was a bit of like the size of the college, the lack of intimacy with like learning. It was just these huge classrooms, and I was like, this person doesn't even know my name. They don't care. As many people find out when you leave a smaller, say, high school maybe, and go off to a huge college, you're like, I'm no longer like, they don't care if you make the honor roll or who you are. They barely know like your face.
They just want you to pay your tuition.
Yeah, you barely know your face, and you start to realize that's a big change. So I don't know. I think some of that changed things. But anyway, he was super supportive. Like, I remember telling him, it was sort of like, I think it was holding back like his thoughts. Like, you know what? Let's just see how it goes. See what happens.
Yeah.
And then I got the job, and that was we need you out here in like 2 weeks. I was like, that's how fast life changed for me. So I went out with nothing and left everything at home, and had to start getting stuff shipped out, including my car and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's, always fascinating to look that far back and think about what video game journalism, and I'm using air quotes if you're a podcast person, was like back then, right? And it always struck me. I remember when I started at IGN, and I sat across from Craig Harris and talking to him about it, and he's like, when I got offered the job, my dad called. My dad called IGN to be like, is this a real thing? Are you trying to take advantage of my son? Because it was such a weird thing of like, yeah, move to San Francisco.
Your dad, rightly so. Like,
no,
making
totally.
I mean, especially back then, that would sound kind of odd. So that's funny. Now, my dad didn't check to see if I was going to be
didn't
okay
call in
with
for that
So,
one. Yeah. So now it's not like you're trading one for a better thing, right? You're going from a classroom that you feel is too big, right? That you don't have this intimacy to San Francisco, which is a little bit bigger than a classroom.
Yeah.
Was there a culture shock for you on that front?
I'm laughing because the story of my actual, pardon me, arrival and the living situation is interesting. So that I'll give you a few options, Greg. We can talk about the exact like what happened and the culture shock of like finding out where I'm going to live, what that living situation was, etc., or just like in general, going from a small
I
town
want the specifics. I want the specifics. This
yeah,
is
I
your
think you
episode
guys.
of We Have Cool Friends. We got to get into it, Fran.
Right. I really think that people like these stories, and they always hear from you guys. They hear a version of the stories, which is through you guys' exaggerated lenses, and they're always actually
not even exaggerated, right? It's the
yeah,
way
I
the
guess
story was told.
They're
to me.
95% true.
I have a feeling we're going to talk about a lot of stuff here that I've never talked to you about. Like I don't know though that side of you.
So you may not know this, and I'm sure you had your crazy adventures, when you showed up at IGN. That maybe I realize now that all right, Greg. After all this is over, we need to go out and have a drink.
Well, we can't go out. That's what we're doing now. If you want, I'll go pour a beer right now.
I'm saying this as in a global crisis being over.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not the show. So anyway, get here to IGN after being offered the job. So within 2 weeks, they're like, come out. I already had a ticket to Nintendo Space World, by the way. That's a different story. But I always joke. I'm like, that's part of why you hired me. You didn't have to pay, save the expenses. So come out. And this goes to show you just how young I was at the time. And I'm sitting there working. And it's like 3 o'clock, I swear. The sun's going down. And I'm like, so is there like a hotel situation or like... God. And I'm talking to Matt Casamassina, who is not known as, he was young too, but at the time not known to be the most organized, boss-like of people. And he looks at me like, yeah, it's a good question. And I was like, I got like that like flush of like, okay, whatever, I got a credit card, like I'll figure it out. And he walks over, I'm pretty sure, to Per Schneider and starts talking, and he comes back and he's like, no, nothing like that. Because I thought they might put me up for a few weeks. I just sort of assumed it.
You didn't even ask. You didn't even ask when you took the job.
Of course not.
Okay, great.
And I've now been on the other side of that as a hiring manager, where people ask me those questions, and I'm always like, well, it's a good thing you asked, And I'm like, like, why didn't I ask? But anyway, so didn't know where I was going to stay, and then Matt, I think, realized the gravity of the situation, and he sort of turned around his chair for 5-10 minutes, turned back around. He's like, yeah, we have an extra room. Like you can just stay there. And so Matt lives with another writer from IGN, and they also had another writer that was living there. And They actually had a tragic situation. He's alive today, et cetera. To preface this, but he got hit by a cab, had to leave, San Francisco. So his room was left vacant, and they were sort of holding it, sort of see how it go. But this was many months in, and so anyway, they said come back. So
worth pointing out that this a piece of IGN lore I knew about the cab accident or whatever, and it's the reason why you always get out curbside. To this day, when you get out of an Uber or a cab, like I refuse, don't get out into traffic, because that's what happened, right?
It's funny. Yeah, like that was one of the first stories shared, and you're right. Every time I was getting out of a cab, I thought of that. Mike Morrissey, by the way, great writer for IGN and other mags and stuff out there. He's still, he's not writing in the industry anymore, but you can find him. He's into sports as well, I believe. But anyway, so go home, take his room, and come to find out that has not only been left vacant, but for a while, some cat was cooped up in there and lived there, and it just sort of was left in befouled, not in a great state. So my actual first night, thank God, I had somewhere to stay though, and didn't have to like burn a credit card on finding a hotel and the stress of that. But get there, man, and it's just a mess, including the cat sort of used the bed at its bathroom. Flip the mattress over. There's one comforter with no cover on it, white duvet stained, and I pull it up literally over my knees. It's kind of cool out because San Francisco weather, it's always 55 degrees out. We don't have central heating. And I pull up this duvet over my knees, and I'm like laying in bed my first night, and I'm the lightest, like worst sleeper. And I was like, whew, this is going to be rough. Like, I'm happy to be here, but I got to get used to, this culture shock. Yeah. And then the buses start coming by. I've never grown up, next to buses, and every like 5 minutes, like, burn, and, I got this stained duvet over my knees, and eventually, whatever, we sorted that out. But I remember the next day, I asked him to go to like Target basically and be like, I got to buy some pillows and a duvet and stuff. And I remember Matt looking over at a pair, like, as we were going to lunch, and I was like, can I just run in? And he's like, sort of like, God, what a snob.
Oh, the cat bed isn't good enough for this kid.
Jeez.
Highfalutin Illinois kid coming out here.
So funny, man. It was sort of Fight Club mentality back then. We were too close to the release of that movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like that, I always talk about it when people want to talk about because like you feel this too, obviously, in a way different respect, obviously. But like the IGN I got hired at was not the IGN I left in the end, right? Like
No.
IGN grew up while we were both there. And that even when I got hired in 2007, that was I was the first Fox Interactive Media hire under the umbrella. So like actually like people took care of me to an extent, right? Like I had a corporate housing person that was working with me and doing all these different things. And then it was still the same thing of getting there. And on the drive out when I almost died, Micah called me and was like, "Oh yeah, we found one of our roommates had an incident. He did something crazy. We're throwing him out. You can take his room if you want." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I got there, and like had an air mattress that I inflated on this floor,
right?
And it was similar to you of like literally going to bed and then I think at like 11 o'clock rolling out of bed or the air mattress and walking across the street to a Walgreens to buy a space heater. Because I didn't even anticipate. I knew San Francisco was chilly. Like people talked about that, but you didn't think that I would need a space heater.
From being from Chicago, right? No, same, right?
Totally, right. And I'm sleeping like I'm in like all my sweats. Like I'm like totally bundled up underneath the covers and everything else.
People don't often realize most places don't have central heat and the insulation sucks. So when you say
totally.
we're cold, it's because it's like practically you're sitting outside on the porch in 55-degree weather. So
yeah.
Things have changed.
You get there, IGN's 4 years old. Everyone's still a child, right? Even like the Cas Messina I worked with was still a child, let alone now you think of Pear as like this old wise. He's running the whole company.
He must have been Pear must have been 27. I don't know, 26, 27, something like that. That was the difference of how it is now. I mean, he's I don't know when it.
67,
like late 40s. No, he's late 40s.
So. You're there. You're hired to review Nintendo games, right, or cover Nintendo in general and stuff. Like
hired as an editor, to do news and reviews.
How quickly does that turn around from you laying in bed, like, oh my god, what have I done? To this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, I remember being there, and in those moments that I had, like when I arrived, like, crap, where am I gonna live? And then, whoa, how much is rent? And all these realizations of culture shock, like you were asking, that for a while, it was always, we'll see a few years of this. We'll see where it goes. I was very easy breezy about it, but I knew that I didn't want to go back to that school, to that exact scenario. And so I was like, you know what? I can always go back. And I remember thinking for many years and even having the dreams, right? Will my credits last? And for a while, I thought about like if things change. And also, by the way, it was the .com crash, right? So now,
right, you got there right before it happened, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was about 3 months before. I always call it Black October. I don't remember if they called it that, but the bottom dropped out in similar ways to 2008, and then, God forbid, I hope we don't see stuff like that now. But
we're gonna see way worse. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I know. So, in any event, I remember just thinking like, wow, it's like crazy out here, and will I go back to school or whatever? But I very quickly was like, this is awesome. I love doing this. And I just very much like you do, I think, and we all do in this general craft, you sink into the work. And I just did that. And then that's the thing I think about most is how much I sank into work, for how long I sank into it. And they're horse blinders. I had friends coming to town from Chicago like, dude, you live in... They tell me stories now about how I was like the first adult. These are people that were a year or two older than me, even some of my best friends. And they came out to visit. They're like, dude, you had like the real job. We were still going to school. And like everybody's like, he gets a real paycheck. How cool is that? And they're off going to college. It never occurred to me, but... part of the stories, they'd come out and I'd be at IGN, writing a hands-on of like 5 games until 10 p.m. I'm like, after dinner, I'll catch up with you guys. And I look back, I'm like, wait, probably should have balanced that out a little better.
Do you regret that?
You sink. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's weird because I don't regret. Actually, you could relate to this. There's tons of works that I'd be like, I've got to get this Zelda hands-on up. Like we just got the import copy in.
Totally.
Hundreds of thousands or whatever of people are waiting for this, but then like, there's the other side, which is like, I just had some other hands-on of a game that nobody would remember.
Oh yeah.
And news stories that people don't care about as much, but the grind was like, you have to get it. You have to be the fastest. I was writing news stories at home in the morning before exactly.
Oh, yeah.
You did all that, but you look back and there's probably a pretty big percentage you're like, yeah, maybe I didn't need to worry about that other stuff, but that was just the culture. Be first, you were just try to be as on top of it as you could be, because IGN was, pretty much the main source for all that.
The pinnacle, right? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you felt a burden, not in a bad way, but just like, this is my job. This story just broke, and also the competition with the other people of like, we got to be the best and the first.
Yeah. Let alone the fact that when I got there, right, IGN was broken into teams. So even then there was competition there where it was,
Yeah,
Dunham
within the
talking
teams.
shit on Doug Perry about like that PlayStation versus Xbox team and who was going to have this or who was going to review that. Like, yeah, it was that idea. And then I think it goes back to that brothers in arms mentality, right? That I think was always what was so powerful about E3 when we used to do them, the way we used to do them, not the way they are now. Not that I'm talking shit about. I think now they're more professional and more healthy. But where it was that, like, remember, if you left the war room before 9:30 or 10, everybody would be like, not like shitty about it, but like, oh my God, he already done? You know what I mean? What are you talking about? Like, I distinctly remember when me and Anthony Gallegos there while Anthony's writing a Frogger 3DS fucking preview. Like,
this is what I'm talking about.
And like, who the fuck cares? And I didn't go to like, one year I didn't go to the team
Sony
dinner,
party.
right? Because I was gonna try to stay home to Agatha Christie murder mystery on DS or whatever.
This is what I'm talking about, Greg. You regret that, don't you?
Yeah,
of course,
100%. But it was that idea that like you looked around, and this is where the crunch conversation is so interesting. Where I don't think at any point can I sit here and really understand video game crunch from a developer's perspective, but from our perspective, there was that idea of like, well, I know that Bredvig's working as hard as I am. I know Clayman's working as hard as I am. I'm going to push myself just like they're pushing themselves.
Yeah. And part of that was good, but I think a big part of it was bad. I don't know that you could avoid it, but meaning we would all be looking around, like you said, of like, who's going home? You're like, I got a lot of stuff to do. But it wasn't that you were competing to be there late. It just sort of was like, who's gonna show like how dedicated they are, and everybody would be doing it. You'd be there super late, and oh god, it's like I started the video team that became quick stories across that was like driving to E3 and my car that got hit by a bulldozer.
Samus, right?
Sleeping, Samus.
Kevin,
Samus,
if you can find a photo of Samus, it's out there on the internet.
It is. You can if you search Fran Mirabella car IGN or Fran Mirabella Samus car.
Because that's the other thing. I always talk about my life, and I want to get to your story of driving E3 with it.
No, it's fine.
I always talk about my life of like, because I'm a comic book kid. I talk about like, oh, well, the different reboots that have happened in my life. You know what I mean? Of like, oh, well, I live in Missouri. Well, no, I live out here. I'm married. No, I'm not. There's always the constant of Portillo.
Yeah, this cover of how it changes.
Readers seem to like Portillo, so no matter how many reboots there are, Portillo's part of it. But like, that's the thing of like, the Fran that moved out here and drove Samus, like, he slept in a cat piss bed. Like, he would. There it is.
That's right.
That's the one that
Samus right there.
Dropped
Fran's
on it.
Car parked outside of it.
That's the one, man. So that was my
What
first...
was this? What fell on it?
So a bulldozer slid down a San Francisco hill. The bulldozer was actually on the back of a trailer. So however you want to paint it, they got hit by the shovel of the trailer in that back right side. So it smashed into that, which kind of folded the trunk, and then my car slammed into another car. Funny story.
And you kept driving after this?
Many years. I was
like this. Nobody fixed it?
Eventually, I pulled the trunk off, and then there was two rusty handles kind of hanging off, which eventually Mark Nick attached two fluorescent orange monster hands to.
Sure.
Again, a lot of different stories to get into here, but
interesting.
The funnier one maybe was that notoriously I made a prototype clay GameCube controller. I was at home, so to talk about the culture, I was at work till at 7 or 8. I'm like, I'm gonna go home and like make a pizza, eat, go back to work. I was working on my clay GameCube controller. Went home to bake it because it's polymer clay, and you have to microwave and then bake it. Yeah.
So the idea here was that they had revealed the dimensions and what the GameCube controller looked like. But obviously there was no hands-on. So you, being the ingenious fellow you were, I'm going to make it.
Well, that's only half the story, Greg.
Lay it on me, Fran.
I wanted to write a hands-on, which I can now disclose I had a hands-on at a developer. And so how were we going to write a hands-on when we couldn't say that we got our hands-on?
Yeah.
And so not only did I want to visualize that for the fans, which, is, oh God, Kevin found the controller. It's very lumpy. I took 4 years of ceramics, but I was ashamed of that.
It shows, Fran. It shows.
Polymer clay was like hard to work with. But anyway, that was the night. I was making that controller, went home to bake it, come outside with clay controller in bag or hand, and my car was like at an angle, and I was like, and you're so oblivious when you're this age, I guess. And I tried to get in my car, and I'm like, why is it? And I look around, and there's just like flashing yellow lights everywhere, cops. And I was like, wait, oh no. And then I realized that this thing crashed in my car, and that was a bit of a nightmare. So I got totaled, took the money, bought things like clothes, a TV, because I didn't hardly have anything. I didn't even have
Well,
my
you
own
kept driving the
mattress.
total car.
Yeah, so that was why. Why would you drive this? Well, it was
Well, you need
told
a car.
it was worth like
It's shocking
$2,200 or something.
how much of your story is very similar to mine, Fran.
Really?
Yeah.
We're not so different.
No, we're not.
So that was in 2000, I think, or 2001. I always forget if it was the year that I got there. I forget, but very early. That was early stories. So,
but that's what I'm talking about, where I feel like that Fran wouldn't be caught dead hanging out with this Fran. This Fran who works out, his hair's always pristine, he's fucking buff, he looks great all the time. He's got cool scarves, cool shirts.
You know what though? It's funny. Yeah, it didn't make as much sense. Like I even hired and interviewed people like Brennan Ayub, who was one of the first video team members, and I picked them up in that car. And like that was it was just, I don't know, like you said, you sunk into the work, and the last thing I was going to do, because a big part of it, obviously, is San Francisco is super expensive. You're just trying to, pay your rent and not bleed out everywhere else. And like the last thing I was going to do was buy a new car because, I don't know, I guess part of me has been like, it works fine. Well, you're right. It's a weird contrast. You're like, but your clothes are really nice. And, you have all this, like, you'll have really good food and like, but you have this terrible car. What are you doing? I don't know.
It's growing up, right? I think that's what, again, why I think people bond the way they do at IGN is because we're all brought in so young, right? For me, it was such an extension of college where, I was in the Antlers in college. We did all sorts of, we're doing all night tailgates and all this goofy shit. And I remember getting the job at the paper and doing that for a year and a half and really feeling like, man, I've put that behind me. And then moving out to San Francisco, and it was like, we're all young and dumb and have no responsibilities. Yeah. Like, and then you rage, right? And it was that thing of going out and drinking all the time and having a crew and doing these things.
Yeah.
Like, that was the video team. Like, I hear Nick's stories. I know your stories.
Yeah, it's funny. The eras, like you said, there was sort of the, whatever, let's say the 2000 to 2007 era, before you got there. And that was like very formative. It was the Matt Casamassina, Craig Harris, Per Schneider, Doug Perry era, growing into the next of you and Damon and Gettys and then, eras that came after that, the Gettys, the other Gettys, the Tim Gettys, right? And the Alfredos, and I was there for all that. But it really changed. Like, what I was going to say was
driving your car to E3 with the video team.
Well, we should quickly mention that and close that, put the lid on that. But I was going to say the industry changed. There's people in the industry still that are like, please do not reflect and talk about officially the crazy stuff. Not. The crazy stuff.
You hear from people that before I got there, and even when I was there, I was there right as it was dying out. Where we went to, I always talk about that Sierra event we went to for Wet. Remember where it was like,
I didn't get to go, but
where it was like, oh, they filmed some reality show here, and we were at some fucking some spa in the middle of Palm Springs, and it was everyone there, and we were there for like 3 days, and I was there to cover 2 shitty games nobody cared about. We were there for 3 days of nonstop food and drinking and partying at the and like it was, we were there not for no reason. I saw 2 games on a Tuesday, and like I was there Monday, and I remember like that was the time where I remember calling my mom and talking to her, or maybe my ex, and it was just being like, this doesn't feel right. This is the first time where I'm like, journalistic ethics are like, I'm getting spidey sense of like, why are we doing this? Why are we here?
Yeah.
Why are higher-ups from our company that aren't talking about the games there, just hanging out and partying?
Yeah, you started to realize there was that journalist, writer side of things. But then above that was sort of the PR and the sales and executive, which we came to learn about later, I think, of like all the money they were spending, the dinners and whatever, part of it's cool that video games got a little Hollywood at the time. The PlayStation money was flowing.
That's what they were emulating, right? That's why these things existed the way they did. They didn't know how to talk to it, and they didn't, I don't think, understand their own art, right? Their own art form and how to market that. And it was a different place where I don't think, you'd see the art you see now that would never get covered back then.
Exactly. So anyway, everything's changed a lot, but I was going to say, leaning into the story about my car, I also, and E3, I drove that thing to E3, slept on Per Schneider's floor for a while. I actually went to Target and bought a fan so I could sleep because I need white noise. And for a while, his daughter called me Fan because I had the fan and my name was Fran, and that was my nickname that was formed out of it. And I slept on Casamassina's floor. And then I also slept at even IGN Culver City on the floor because I would stay up till 4 or 5 a.m. working in the Nintendo press conference. It was so early, and I hated him so much for it because I had to do the video. And so I would actually, for many years, only get about 45 minutes of sleep that night, which you're like, why did you go to bed? I'm like, any sleep at E3. For me personally, I'm like, take a 20, 40-minute nap. It will help. So people thought I was crazy, but that was how it was.
So at this time, and this will continue on, people love to give you shit, and it's all good nature. It's because you're just a character.
It is.
But it is that thing of like, you're constantly giving shit. And I've seen it go from Cass Messina to Scarpino to Nix to Kevin to even obviously
so
me too, but I give everybody shit. Like, where does that start? Is that just because when you show up, you're such a different breed of person? Like, everybody's so unique?
I would love for you to explain it to me, but I think that meaning I think the short of it is that I take ribbing pretty well, and I'm, I guess, a bit of an odd character.
I feel like you also rib. You rib people.
I rib too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just sort of my nature.
If I can just chime in for a second, maybe
Please,
explain, I think, where our fun dynamic comes from. I think because I got hired on IGN's video team, and Nick was my direct manager, but he didn't care. I had to get permission from someone,
but he didn't care.
He didn't.
No, I get
because it was
I
YouTube
was
syndication.
delegating,
It was
Kevin.
he was doing other important video stuff, and I had to get an okay from someone. So I would spend a lot of my time chasing Fran around the office, being like, "Hey, this is these were like real projects." Where I was like, oh, we're trying to do this
trying
thing.
to grow YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of growth while I was there. 8 months,
That's right.
almost 2 million subscribers, not a big deal.
Can you do that for us,
a
Kevin?
lot.
What? Well, I mean, they start with 5 million, so it's a lot easier. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
No, I do get it.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of that was you trying to run away from me constantly, and me trying to like chase you. And then like also, if I was a little bit more annoying at the time, you would just kind of be like, yeah, go do it. I'm signing off. Whatever you want, go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, and I was always flattered by that, I guess, is that Nick was your boss, but I think it was half you knew I was going to ask questions about it anyway, and the other half, and Greg could relate, of like, it was like one part was, let me just ask Fran, because like, let's just cut through it, because he's going to have feedback. But the other part was that I always had like a good rapport, and I have that in real life as well as meaning as being when I was the vice president or senior director. Like, it didn't matter. I would hope. I felt that's just my nature. Like, I feel like I'm a friendly, easygoing. I'm not gonna, even though I might get stressed out, like I'm not gonna put that on other people as much as I can avoid it. And I like to see people, I like that, they don't. It's funny because like I know that I burden people with stuff, but I wouldn't want to intentionally do it, I should say. You know what I mean?
It's not burdening. I mean, like, it's
one last
right?
thing. It is also that like you actually, like, even though I was handling syndication, you cared about seeing growth there. So I'd throw an idea at you, you'd think about it, you'd throw the problems back at me, and it helped me develop the idea further, which was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we didn't spell it out, but I think it's also in my nature. Greg, you tell me I don't know. Yeah, I really put things through the grinder, almost everything.
Yeah.
Everything's got to go through.
Literally
yeah.
everything. That's why the joke now, obviously, is that people see it through your streams when we're playing Division and you're in your inventory. Like, you're grinding through what item to use in this game. It's like, fucking just put on a gun, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. It's just how.
But yeah,
it goes.
now imagine that amplified by you run the video team and there's a million other decisions you need to make that are like everybody's held up waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully I had a team that you guys could do all amazing stuff, and I would get to ask the 20 questions, and you could translate that. But I actually always thought that spoke to how IGN grew, and many people grew, including Kevin, I would hope. But the general culture of, I always say, like, I like to, it can't hurt to try, it's sort of like that mentality. In fact, that was funny. I was talking about WrestleMania yesterday, and I was like, man, like, I don't know, I was watching, and I feel like they need some sound adjustments. Like, it was very hard to pull off what they did, and I was like, props to this performance. But the example I put out there was like, as a producer, I would want to see like 3 different versions of like how do these different things sound before I make the decision. Where some people are just like, no, let's just do this, and that's how it's going to be. And there's nothing wrong with either. I'm definitely the person I like to see the options and try to hone in on, the best option
Sure,
that I feel good about.
Yeah. And so I think, yeah, on that level, I mean, for me being there and then working under you, right, when you were my manager, that level of ribbing, right, and joking comes from, yeah, like just the Fran character, right? Like, well, like I remember that too, of like, you know, the first time, well, I'd only been there, I don't even know, at IGN, like maybe a month or whatever. And uh Roper was doing something at his no, Dunham was doing something. We went to Dunham's house for a party or whatever, and you were coming over, and I hadn't really interacted that much with you. And I remember Roper being like, "Oh, he's gonna come in and he's gonna, oh, do you have any habanero? Oh, nice. Let's do this." And sure as shit, you did. Like you
really?
came in and like did the exact same thing when you finally showed up. And Roper looked at me like, "You see?" And I'm like, "Oh man, like that was Fran." And like that's the thing is, I think your personality is so big and so unique that that's what carries you through all these stories, where there's no way we can have a podcast where we're just going to talk about our lives and not talk about you, because you stand out in every one of these stories by how you act or what you do.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. It circles all the way back to maybe I guess you were starting it. It's like um, I'm in a lot of like mentions. People are coming into my chat now, even they're like, "Oh man, they're talking about you. They're talking about you today." And Andy's talking about me on his stream and like doing impressions. And at the end of the day, yeah, it's mostly flattering.
Yeah.
That I leave that kind of mark. But
Was it
sometimes
ever annoying? Because again, like to get to IGN in 2000 before anyone had grown up, when everyone was children, when it was just that full on, we're all fresh out of college aged people. That's when humor can be the most biting and the most like there's no tact to it.
Yeah, maybe honestly, I never really thought about it. Growing up, I wasn't the tallest kid. I was the youngest in my family. I also grew up in a very, I just say it, a white town, and I was a little tan, and like it's weird that you even feel any of that. But meaning, maybe growing up, I always felt
You were
like
used to it.
this. I was being made fun of a lot, and like not in like a terrible way in any ways.
Sure.
But like I just always had to like I think brush it off. And now that I really think about it, maybe that was part of it. Being picked on as the younger kid. And again, these are things that if you have older, siblings, it's just naturally going to happen. My life growing up was great. So I have no complaints about that. But yeah, maybe that's a big part of it. And then I also just think, again, because of my DNA and my mom and dad, like the way they were, I'm always like, my mom wanted the perfect like home and the decoration. And like she worked in beauty and hair, by the way. And like, so that translated. And
that's why
meanwhile, my dad was, to the T with like how he would whatever fix the car, and he's a scientist. I don't know, all that stuff blended together, I guess, into this character that I am today.
The other one, I remember when I got there, it was obviously not breaking news, but when somebody gave me the rundown, it was that you didn't curse when you first got hired.
Yeah, that is true. Like I really, and even then, it's funny. I do a PG stream for the most part now.
Yeah, but then you work with me, and I'm all like, "Bah!" screaming.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was just like I didn't see a need for it, but I didn't really do it. And then it obviously being at IGN, I mean, eventually, like that's just gonna like fall over.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was 20 at the time, going on 21 when I got hired, so it was still pretty young.
Sure.
Yeah.
So at some point you transition to not doing the reviews, doing the is it when like they turn to you and say, "Hey, do you want to start a video team?"
Yeah, it's funny. It was literally that. It was 2004 at the time. I was editor-in-chief of IGN Insider. For clarity, we had multiple editor-in-chiefs running PS2 and Xbox and so on. So anyway, I was doing IGN Insider subscription, right? How do we get a revenue stream for basically a little like a Patreon for
ahead of your time?
IGN
ahead of your time, right? Let's window content and let's try to make sure that we don't have to ever fire people.
Yeah, and video is expensive, and so that's where video reviews were. So I was already kind of doing some of that, doing video. Video lived on that channel, but I also did features, like in-depth features and stuff. And I remember Pear came to me and was like, "Yo, so let's see, what was it? I forget the exacts, but like, oh no, I know it. This is it. The Adobe Flash Player finally could serve ads, because back before then, you'd have like QuickTime, and it really didn't work well. You couldn't really insert an ad dynamically into a video player, and that was starting to change. And obviously, the execs up top are like, "Wait, this is a new revenue stream we got to tackle. So we need a video team. Let's dedicate someone." And they're like, "Well, Fran's already doing it. That makes sense." So Pear asked me. I remember thinking, man, I really want to do like interviews though. I had all these features that I want to write, and I'm already doing head-to-head comparisons. Head-to-heads were which one of these games is better on which platform. The Digital Foundry stuff. I actually knew Richard Ledbetter back then, and we talked about capturing 480p in the days before.
Wow,
like,
480p.
How do you do it? Because it's an analog. I'm not going to get into it, but funny that I was doing a little bit of that back then. But anyway, Pear was like, do you want to do this? I remember going home like, I don't know. But I very quickly woke up the next day and was like, yeah. And then I had to hire people. And then
you hired a bunch of chuckleheads.
Yeah, but Nick was one of the first. Nick Scarpino himself. He was just a few into the process. I think it was because Brandon was already there. I think it was Eric Hart. And Craig Barrett was there doing stuff. But then Nick very shortly after. So I got lucky enough, to form a team of some of my best friends now, which was, like you brought up before too. It was like, well, I was the boss and I hired him, but we all would go out and like drink our faces off at night. So
Comic Club, right?
That's right. The famous Comic Club.
So many
the photos I have.
Terrible, disgusting stories from that place.
Oh, I have a photo archive, man, that I got to start they're all fine, but they're like, I would take my camera as I was developing my photography sensibilities. I would take it to like the club, I was that guy doing the behind the scenes stuff. I have a lot in the mid to late 2000s, I guess.
I still have on the PS3 with all my other digital photos, the beta breaker photos you took.
You guys dressed up as
my first year, first and second.
Secret Service.
Yeah.
Those were the
you would
days,
show
man.
up not to be part of it originally, just to take photos, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Man, if Instagram existed back then, I would have had the account.
Up. That's where you'd be an influencer. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be over here begging for Twitch Prime.
That's right, exactly.
Use your Epic creator code, Fran Mirabella, if you're out there. You're gonna buy some.
Exactly, man.
So how long had you been just doing the normal reviews, news, just being an editor at IGN versus then being video team guy?
Sure. Yeah. So 2002, I'll just walk you through it really fast, right? 2002, I don't know if it was 2002 or ish, 2003. I was an editor for IGN 64 and IGN, GameCube, and focused on that. But then it was like, do you want to run the subscription team and do that? So then I started doing that. Chris Roper was an employee and a coworker of mine for many years, and that was great. And then video started at the beginning of 2005, effectively, and that was just, there was hardly anybody. So it was like, I had to put up all the trailers along with Eric Hart and Nick, and we would do like rotations. And so that was from, I'd say about 2005 towards 2010. I was still, in it. Like I would be going out to do a video interview while Nick would handle a video review at home, and we would mix that up. What's that? And a meatball sub.
You handle the edit and a meatball sub for sure.
Oh, of course, man. But we would juggle that. But the team was growing. It was growing from 1 to 5 to 10 to, we hired our first host, Chobot, right in, I don't even remember, but late 2000s or somewhere like that. But then that went through, but eventually, right, as we pushed towards where I think a bigger part of your video career started was the YouTube Start content, which was we got funding from YouTube to do original programming, and then we could make the team even bigger and compartmentalize into original programming. That was an era, but then after that, it kind of settled into just being this big video team that had grown into 20 to 30 people between LA and here and having a lot of different programming. And that, as that grew, and I worked for a VP at the time and was promoted to senior director or whatever, that's when it started to turn into, hey, let's have you in this sales meeting. Let's have you in this corp meeting. Where's the budget? Then it was, where's the performance and loss, statement. And then I learned to do the business stuff. But that was, I'd say, 2011, 2012 up through, when I left in late 2018.
And so at what point do you realize it's not working for you anymore? You still love the job, obviously, you still love IGN. I'm not trying to throw shade, but clearly you left and you're doing something so different, but so similar to how you started, right? And that's what I love about your story is that I feel it's the same way. Even like I was always lucky, as obviously being my manager and being in these meetings with me, that IGN was always great about talking to me about what did I want, what did I need kind of thing, and then shifting the priorities there. And I remember when I got to lead the PlayStation team being so stoked. And then, when Clements and Colin were underneath me on it, that was cool. But then it started becoming that I'm in more planning meeting. I'm planning more than I'm doing, which I wasn't feeling. You know what I mean? Like I missed creating, and then I was able to shift to video, right? And make a whole bunch of shows.
Yeah. I don't know. I think definitely it was in 2016, I would say for sure. There was a good 2 years there of like, whew, boy, like I'm just all in these executive meetings and sales meetings, and people are coming and going, not in a bad way, but like I'm having most of my day is like catching up with, Alana's manager about our, how are you doing? And now you're leaving, and who are we going to backfill? What's the budget? Okay, I got to go find money from here. Also, you get the idea. So that had been going on for a lot of years, and we had just like so many priorities. But that is the job. I always want to stress. I'm like, I decided to be a video game writer and journalist that became a video producer / content creator that used to be my pen name was out there. And then I got to be in the videos sometimes too, hiring people and mentoring people and doing budgets and learning from very smart business people as well, how to I never went to school for finance. And so I got to do all that. And I gobbled all that up. I really liked it. It wasn't just about being promoted. It was like, I liked learning that. And I guess I always wanted to try to do the best I could do at all categories, but it started to be too much. And I always miss doing content. It's funny to look back where I'm like, yeah, it was good that I got on Fire Team Chat. I noticed that became the brightest part of my week. Friday, lunchtime, we did it during lunch even, because then it was part of me. Like, well, how's it going to perform? Well, let's just do it during lunch, so I don't have to look at it and say, is this worth our time, as a team? So anyway, at least a few years, but I'd say it even dates back to honestly when you guys left. It wasn't at the fault of you guys doing it. I realized how much it was changing then. And also part of me was like, oh man, I want to go off and do content. And I've always felt that. Never stopped, I've never not wanted to do content. I would set aside things like I did the Xbox One review, video review, and it was like a torturous thing, I think, for the team, because it turned into like just me like capturing so much footage and wanting it to be so great.
Still a gift that gets shared on Slack every so often of you with the verdict doing the
that was actually just
fitness game was.
Your Shape Fitness. That wasn't even for the Xbox One.
Oh really?
It was after. But see, I would do stuff like that. I'd be like, I'll do that, and then I always sunk into that. But yeah, I guess it'd been heavily for a few years, and I was like, I was streaming already, right? I knew I liked doing that. I liked that outlet. I would occasionally, like I said, be in content, but it just never felt like enough.
And I have a question for you there. I noticed that you had started streaming, obviously after we left, but like I forget, somebody else, I think Destin might have started finally streaming and doing stuff on his own too, and then you started up. What was your motivation there? Because I always read it as you're a student of the game and you saw us and I mean us being just people in general, going out and doing that you knew. And I thought it was an experiment on your part to see what this was all about. What is this meeting? Is that true?
I think maybe I even told you some of that, which is why you're saying it. It was combination.
No, this is the original idea.
No. But like, maybe I never mentioned it. It was half that, half. I'm like, why does everybody love watching streaming? It's growing. And I was like, I understand what they're doing, but I'm like, why don't they just watch YouTube VODs and the time you have and like, if you want to know about a game, just pull up like a YouTube VOD and like look at it on your time. Like, what's the difference? Why are you watching them live? And I mean, I kind of understood it because we did live programming, but so I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. But yeah, people started doing it more. Alfredo was doing it at the time. It was a big part of what he was doing. But I knew people in the Destiny community. So it kind of had been growing, but I'd been asking myself for a long time, like, how do we get this right? It's funny. Part of it was, studying for like, how do we get this right as IGN and do it right? So I wanted to do it because of that, but part of it was I want to give stream a shot because I watch people stream and I'm like, oh, I know how I would do that. So it kind of turned into a bit of both, and Destiny was a big part of it.
You think?
Yeah.
I want to, before we get to Destiny, because obviously we're going to talk about that. Do you think in your time IGN got it right? Because you're asking, how could we do this right? Do you think IGN got it right while you were there? I'm not asking you to comment on current product or anything.
Streaming or
streaming, like Twitch streaming and doing all that jazz.
No, it was. It's not that we got it wrong.
Sure.
I felt, put it this way. Actually, I take it back. Professional, broadcast level.
Oh, the quality, for sure.
going to E3 and doing live shows with nailed it. Nick, helping, spearhead that with the rest of the team. Oh my goodness, I felt like we were ahead of the pack. We did some of the first live pre and post show programming at that level that was not on TV, and I was so proud of that. So yeah, nailed it on that. But when you had to come home and just like stream a game, it was always like it just wasn't what IGN did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for lack of caring or experience. There's just too many other things on people's plates.
Totally.
And so that is why actually when like having Alfredo there, I was like, oh man, like this he's a good player and he gets it and he can do it from his desk, where you did run into like people who came from the older creed of like writing, and you'd present it to them like, can you stream from your desk? And they'd be like, I don't really want to do that. And so
Dude,
it was
I remember when I started, and I remember being in a meeting and Craig Harris, I think it was for video reviews, being like, I don't want to do this. Like that, I was hired to write about games, and like that's a totally honest and real perspective to have. Like, but it was like the industry shifting, right? One of those moments where you saw everything changing, and it is that not everybody is a Swiss Army knife. Some people want to do one thing and not do the other.
Yeah, it's always been understandable but strange to me. In other words, when I hear people that were doing the job that were writing, and I understood they want to focus on that craft, but then I was like, why don't you want to do like a killer video review? And
I'm right there with you, obviously.
Yeah, and it was weird it always seemed foreign to me, but it hits right on your question of like, why? And I'm like, because that was one other thing to add to the Swiss Army knife. Like I can edit, I can, do this. And it's not a matter of pride. I love those things. It's like if you're an artist or a painter, you want to know all these different styles, these things in your tool belt. And like, that's a lot where it comes from. So every time I look around, I'm always like, oh man, you can't spread yourself too thin though. And anyway, with the streaming, I just, eventually decided to go home, and I turned my PlayStation camera on. So again, oddly, you're looking at me now, if you're watching, and it's like, wow, that camera, the lighting, it's great. I would do the same thing at work. I'd be like, don't even overthink this beginning. Just go do the first step, which is what is the basic construct of the content. And it was me in an evening or afternoon. How am I even going to do this and keep it together without worrying about all these other aspects? So yeah, I called it the peephole cam because I like the circle one. I don't know why.
The PlayStation built-in streaming. I know
it was so bad. Yeah, the peephole cam because showing too much of my living room. I just didn't like. So anyway, it was that and me just sitting there playing Destiny on like a really low quality stream, and honestly, 6 people showing up. And that's just where it started. And I was like, all right, we're going to keep refining this. And
so over time, it goes from being an experiment and trying to figure out to you legitimately loving it and like wanting to be part of that platform.
Yeah. I think it's half my personality to once I started down that road, I'm like, until I perfect and do a great job at this craft, like I'm not giving up. So it's half that to me realizing too, I'm like, ooh, I like this. Ooh, I like this community. And it'd been a long time since I could remember, I guess. When you get somebody in the comments who just appreciates your work or is part of it. They don't even have to appreciate it, but they're just like, they're responding to what you said and like, yeah, I think I will pick this up. And having that effect was like a big reason why I got into this and why I do it now, but just having some effect with the community. So yeah, having direct access to that, I got like, I don't know, the spark went off of like, wait.
Yeah, the endorphins.
Yeah, you're right here. I'm like, I'm playing Division, and somebody's like, so what's the deal with this recalibration system now? And I like, just tell them.
Well, here comes an hour-and-a-half long explanation from me, your friend, Fran Mirabella.
Yeah, but it's such a cool forum. And I know I've jumped around a lot, but I should tell people why did it's in the same way I got into video. I remember, it's a really cool story, I personally think, where me as a journalist and a writer, I'm sitting there doing a comparison to the speed classes in Extreme G3, just like Wipeout. And I'm trying to write in words in this feature, like, wait until you see how freaking fast you go at the, 1000 cc or whatever, versus the beginning. Like, it's like you're in tar and you're trying to write, right? I'm driving through molasses and tar and, the blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then you talk about how fast it is. And I'm like, man, he's not going to get it. You got to see it. And I walk over to, at the time, we had somebody who was doing video stuff, and he would render things like titles, but new Final Cut. And I was like, so what if I want to put 2 the same size as a video in this rectangle video? Could I do that? Like a differently shaped video? In other words, not your standard TV 4x3. I just want to stack them and put them in the page like a featured video. And he's like, yeah, sure. You just stick them next to each other and go, and it'll work. And I was like, what? And I realized the power. And then from then on, I was like, I will always have video compliments to what I'm writing. And that's where that started. And then I realized when I started doing video, storytelling in video is so incredible. And unfortunately, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that you could do, but I'm addicted to it. I always want it to be, the best it can be in that sense.
Quick aside, do you still sit around and get amazed at how easy it all is now? Because even when I started at IGN in 2007, it's like, all right, we're gonna get direct feed of a game. We had to get that giant Folsom thing that like
Yeah.
you'd bring with you and you'd wheel, and it would be like
Video
literally
scaler, yeah.
45 minutes of Scarpino down there after a smoke break, fucking cursing in this, like, I'm just
Yeah.
standing in this developer's office while he's plugging all this shit in to try to figure out if he can do it. And now it's like
Yeah.
this Aver thing you put down and you hit a button. It's like, all right, cool, I've captured it all.
Yeah, definitely. The fact that I can do this from home and have this quality and the
Yeah.
internet is fast enough alone. I mean, just that's how old we are now, right? It's like having to upload like a basic file was like pulling teeth, which is why you didn't do video on the internet. And like I talked about, like how another big part of how it started, I had to figure out how am I going to capture the Xbox in HD and be one of the first people to do it in the highest of quality.
Yeah.
Figuring those things out, it's crazy how easy it is. You plug in a USB cable. And back then it was like, you're right. I literally worked with a couple different vendors. I was rolling in like these big boxes with, they were DVRs, they would record onto them in a special codec that then your computer couldn't read and you had to install the driver. And it's like crazy how much easier it is. But I can also see how far we have to go. And it's like, you guys talked about my camera, and I always mention to people on Twitch, I'm like, that's for now. A few years from now, your camera is going to emulate the way that we get portrait, mode
Totally.
on iPhone, and everybody's going to have it. But what's the next thing? 4K streaming, all that.
So then, just to wrap this up in terms of your career part of it, or the IGN part of it, how hard is it to leave? Like, how do you know it's time to go after 18 years, right? Because I thought you were a lifer. I thought you'd be there forever.
Yeah, I never thought it was like the right time. I had looked around, at different full-time opportunities for a while, over those years, and I started to realize that I was like asking them a lot of questions about the culture, what's it going to be like, and I just started to continue to imagine going back to like what I already have, which is like, well, aren't I just going to get the same pile of emails and I'm going to have the same, corporate executive meetings? And again, sometimes they're bad, but I'm like, that's not exactly what I want to do. And I just
that's not calling your name.
Yeah, I'm like, I just need to stop worrying as much. And I have cool friends that I can rely on and just go out and figure out what I want to do on my own and mix all these things that I have together. And it's interesting that I'm still figuring that out, like I like streaming, but you don't make a lot of money doing it, but I love it. And I'm trying to have this, this life where I'm like, I can do that, but I'm still going to be able to grow and pursue these other things that I still have. But I want to do it in a balanced way without working 14 hours a day.
Sure.
You come to find out you kind of need to work 14 hours a day.
And that was my question, right? Because that was, I think, everyone's big, back to the very beginning of this, where we're talking about how much everybody loves you and worries about you. It is such a bold move to quit a job like that when you're at the top of the pyramid, for all intents and purposes, right, at IGN. To quit, to go off and do this, but then do it as a solo act. Like, that's the biggest thing, right? Like, I can't imagine doing this on my own, right? Granted, I left at a different time, but like, the fact that Nick is there to take care of the HR and payment and figuring all that. Exactly, right? And Tim's able to talk about ads on a different level than I am, and all these, like, I can make the content. The fact that Kevin is here right now capturing all this and making sure and monitoring it all works right. Like, I can't imagine branching out and going on your own, let alone doing that from IGN at where you were, let alone doing that in San Francisco, where we've already talked about how expensive it is to live here and all these different things. Like, is it working? Everything's going okay? Like,
I mean,
you're still figuring it out, you say, but I mean, clearly you're making it work.
The big change is, right, it was setting a ship to sail and trying to just follow the wind versus like knowing exactly where you're going. So that was the big difference. And so there's, right, it's that evolution of like, right, I mean, I set out to do, like, I'd say a lot more production, and then you guys sit me down and you're like, hey, do you want to be on Gamescast? And I told you flat out, I was like, well, that's going to burn like half of my Thursday. And I'm like, how is that going to work that in the middle of a week that I'm doing production and I'm going to try to balance streaming out and figure out everything else that, you know what I mean? How do I bring that
Yeah.
all together? But the first thing I was like, well, yeah, of course, I'd love to do that because I knew in my heart it's what I wanted to do. So it's been tugging at those things and not worrying about it. Obviously, after working for 18 years, like I do okay, and I also have like my 401k if everything
Sure.
were
Oh,
to
yeah,
ever happen. And so in other words, like it's not like it's I just started work and I don't know, you know. I don't know that I'm going to be okay for the next, 10 years, for lack of a better way to put it. So I can take the risks. And so when I stream for, 40 hours a week, or I've streamed for our 30 days in a row or something now on Twitch since the crisis that we're in, I can do that and have some confidence. Obviously, I've built Twitch too, which is good.
You built Twitch. I didn't know that.
Well, I built my Twitch.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Is what I'm saying. But
yeah, you built Twitch. You don't have to worry about anything. You said let the Bezos. You're doing great.
No. So yeah, I think I'm rattling a bit, but the short of it is, and I'm dedicated to this now, is following what I want to do and letting the chips fall where they may versus this like worry of like, you know what I mean?
No, totally. And that's
Like,
what's awesome about it.
Yeah.
Is the fact that I love the fact that that's who you are now. Because I've always loved you, but I think it is that back when you were running IGN, it was a ping pong ball energy, and you still have that Fran energy. You still have that Fran luck, but you are committed to this. You are committed to when you come on Gamescast. You are committed to, like, you know what I mean? Like, I remember when you were going to be on Gamescast, one of your first couple weeks, you hit me up and we're just like, hey, I saw on the doc that you're talking about these games. Can I get codes for those? Because I want to play those too. So I'm like, geez, all right, cool. No one's ever done this level of research for what you've been playing on Gamescast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's just I love doing all that stuff. So, but anyway, no, things are going well. But I'd say, like, obviously on a financial side in San Francisco, like, got so far to go. I mean, to be blunt, you're probably in the same boat. I mean, you have a whole company of your own now, but like, you move out thinking you're gonna own a home someday, and like, we're just nowhere near that easily. Like.
Yeah.
It's hard to buy homes and stuff out here, and so that's certainly a focus. One day having that and having a studio, to be in. So for me, there's tons of growth in front of me on that side. But there's also been a lot of.
Do you ever think about going and doing it in LA or Chicago or whatever?
Nah, because you guys are here and there's a lot of work here, and other places, like, it'll be like this work from home scenario, which sure, it would work fine, but I know a lot of streamers that do that. But with all the type of work I do, right? Like, meaning we have the Borderlands show that came up, and we have other things. There's events in town to cover games,
Sure.
and
it's the same argument for why I keep Kind of Funny here.
Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah, I know. People ask you all the time. It's like, why don't you move to LA? You're like, honestly, it probably makes a lot more sense. More space. It's cheaper for everybody to live, and it's not that simple. Yeah, Greg's like, no.
It doesn't make that much more sense. I hate that narrative. It's a little bit cheaper.
I agree with you, by the way. You can move to the outskirts of LA and like maybe, but even then, the amount of time
then you're driving an hour and a half in or whatever.
It's a lot cheaper. There's a lot of more commuting, but
exactly. That's where the balance is at.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, you could go live 45 minutes from here, an hour from here, and then you save $1.
We've all made our choices.
All right,
haven't we?
That's the LA thing, but no, I don't really think.
Also,
about
I have a feeling when San Francisco goes back to business as usual, it's going to be a bloodbath out there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, no, I don't really think about that. Again, it's more chips for they may. I've got, I've lived in this apartment in San Francisco for 10 years, so the rent's totally made this possible.
Rent controlled, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So, everything's good on that front. But yeah, it's definitely been. Twitch is probably the most interesting part of all the things,
Sure.
Doing that content is very up and down and maybe risky to a point, but I see it's such a great medium, and it just has so much growth potential. And I guess I look at it in the way that we used to look back when YouTube was growing, I think. And I think it's still as big as it seems. I think it's still really got a long way to go. And I've been fortunate enough to been doing it for a long time now. So I guess I'm putting a lot of hours into that because it's weird, but I'm going to sit at the table and I'm playing the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I love it.
So even when I got hired and you weren't doing it anymore, you were still the Nintendo guy.
Yeah.
At what point do you become the games as a service Destiny division guy? Because I think it's, again, you want to talk about the retconning of lives, or it's New 52 Fran or whatever. The fact that again, you're so good looking and well put together, and you have this great everything. But then you're also like so this guy about Destiny, right? Like this guy about the Division. What draws you to those? How did that happen?
You know what? I've always loved Halo. I think I always tell people this when they ask me, how'd you get into Destiny? And so that's a big part of it. But people, they know me as the Nintendo guy, so they think about me as like a Mario, Zelda, Metroid person, which, by the way, is super true. But you're right. It's been retconned. I have all these people now that watch me for Destiny and Division and Borderlands and all that. And they're like, they'll see me play a game like Ori, and they're like, I didn't think you liked these types of games. And I'm sort of like, what? And I always have to tell people, like, I love like almost every type of game. I've said it a lot on Gamescast. But I almost love too many genres, but games as a service demand a lot of your time.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to sinking into something. And Destiny and being on Fireteam Chat, like, I don't know, I got into the alpha and it just stuck with me. The community was cool. And I don't know what it was. I guess the space magic, the fantasy. I've always wanted to play, for example, World of Warcraft, but I avoided it like the plague. And I always tell people, I played Ultima Online when that came out. And I'm out there like crafting, like leather out of a pig that I killed. And it was like, I love that stuff. You wouldn't know it because like I never wrote about it, or you think again of me as a Pokemon Puzzle League, Nintendo Wave Race guy, but like that was just what you saw. So yeah, I think the only... Yeah, exactly. Probably the only games that I don't feel like I have the time or they don't catch my interest as much are like the pure story-driven games.
Sure.
Like even stuff like Walking Dead and Gone Home. And like, by the way, I like those games when I play them, but I'm a God of War. Yeah, Metroid Prime, God of War, now Destiny, Division, games like that scratch the itch.
Okay. Fran, we got to get to the friend zone where people ask you their questions that they wrote into at patreon.com/kindafunny. And speaking of patreon.com/kindafunny, you can go there to get the show ad free. Today's sponsor, Manscaped. If you are listening to this podcast stuck inside your house with your significant other, I want you to pay close attention. Today's sponsor, Manscaped, can help you make the most out of getting yourself put together and your time together. Manscaped promotes clean hygiene when it comes to shaving your balls. It's time to quarantine Manscaped and chill. Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and hygiene. You are probably spending more time than ever with your significant other right now, and let me tell you, if you don't keep clean down there, your partner will notice. How do I know? Because I use Manscaped, just like Tim does, and we can tell you that people love clean balls, all right, and not having nicked balls either. You don't want that. Don't do that. Manscaped is forever changing the grooming game with their Perfect Package 3.0 Essentials Kit, the perfect tool for your family jewels. The Perfect Package 3.0 kit comes with a new and improved Lawnmower 3.0, waterproof, cordless body trimmer, and a ton of other liquid formulations to round out your manscaping routine. This third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to prevent manscaping accidents. Millions of balls are about to be nick free thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin safe technology. And of course, let's not forget about the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits, right? So why aren't you putting deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? Subscribers get a new replacement blade refill for your lawnmower trim delivered to your door every 3 months, making sure your trimmer always stays fresh and clean. For a limited time, subscribers get not one, but 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag, a $39 value, and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped Boxer Briefs. This is the perfect package for your perfect package. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code MORNING at manscaped.com. Do yourself a favor and always use the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code MORNING at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code MORNING. Most people are loading up on toilet paper, but we are loading up on Manscaped products. Help your relationship out during the quarantine. Your partner, your body, and your balls. Well, thank you. Fran Mirabella III, you are now in the friend zone on patreon.com/kindafunny, where people can write in and ask you questions.
Friend zone?
Okay, we're in the Fran zone today. All right, Fran, I'll give it to you. Ignacio Rojas writes into patreon.com/kindafunny and says, how's it going, Greg and Francis? How's it going, Fran?
That's it? I thought there was
there's more.
Hey,
I'm just thought you saying you want to try to be nice.
Ignacio, I got to meet him out on the street in front of Kind of Funny.
That's what he said. Don't do that. He was there for something else. You're not allowed to stand outside the office. He was, I think, getting a haircut. Anyways.
Yeah. He travels through there.
I'd like to know, what are your favorite or most memorable Fran IGN stories? Is it Fran's closet? Maybe it is something that happened on the road trip to E3 2006. The crazier, the better. Anyways, as always, thanks for being awesome. And Fran, I'm glad I got to meet you before I left SF.
Okay, there was more.
When
of
you
the
think
question.
about
Same
your
to
favorite IGN stories, what do you think of?
There's way too many of them.
Yeah.
So many that I'd forget. But probably, the one that I like to talk about and tell a lot is the Fort Fran, which is another famous story. But Fort Fran was, I would go on vacation, and at work they would want to mess with your desk, which is a very common thing to do in a work environment.
Sure.
So I came back one time to Fort Fran #1, in the same way I have Roman numerals in my name. Fort Fran became to have the same with eras. But anyway, I came back and there was just like a bunch of cardboard around my desk that Mark Nix had built into like a fort. Again, being the good natured ribbing type guy, I just hopped into it. I don't know if I cut the door into it or it already had one, but I worked in that for like a good week with like a little like fold down window. Like as a professional, I mean, the CEO's walking around and Fort Fran's up. I'm like, I don't care. So yeah, that's probably one of the funnier ones.
The Knicks, that was the thing too, of like when I started at IGN in 2007, the computer in between Xbox and PlayStation was the Sorensen squeeze station, where we have to take PSP trailers and footage and cut it and then restretch it to the right aspect ratio.
That's right.
And
It's very
squeeze
specific.
them. And you have to do it for trailers sometimes too.
Yeah.
But on that one were all the Fort Fran videos. I think it was the 12 Days of Fran-ness were on there as well.
Oh,
yeah. They did all sorts of fucked up things to you that can no longer be found on the internet. My favorite was when you were on a business call and he walked over and put a fan down and then put a kite up and flew a kite over you while you tried to do the business call.
Yeah.
And you'd be occasionally like, yeah, but come on, Nick, stop it. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark Nix positioned up across me for April Fool's, by the way, is how this happened.
Yeah.
And it all started with, I'm pretty sure, so the desk across me was empty, and I come in, and I'm running IGN Insider, I think, at the time, or it was Video Team, and Nix is there. I was like, come on, Nix, what, April Fool's? He's like, and like 10 minutes goes by, and I see he opens up the cabinet next to me, and I was just like headphones on. I'm like, I don't know what he's. And then he's like, he pulls a string that's attached to a beaming bright neon PlayStation sign that's pointing in my direction from the top of the thing. And that's #1 out of many things that he started to do, which he later released as 12 Days of Fran Smith.
Yeah.
I don't know. Mark Nix is the Andy Kaufman of IGN. Hilarious and
still
strange.
there, still haunting the halls.
He is. That was
Which
one of the other.
Because you would think that by now, not that he would have gone somewhere else, but by like he was such a crazy character there that like the fact that he's still there and like a very adult IGN, I'm like, he must have toned it down.
It's crazy. Outside of that, and I won't tell him in detail, but just going on trips. Oh gosh, man, there's so many. I mean, Germany and Japan.
Yeah.
Those are probably my favorites. Anytime I went to a remote location that I'd never been to with you guys, Japan, definitely going with Nick and the team. There's some crazy fun stuff, and it was awesome. Yeah.
A lot of people wrote in. A lot of people wanting to know your hair routine and your workout routine, because obviously both are on point. We already know you look great.
Oh,
what are you doing to the hair? Because you gave me tips years ago of don't condition every day, and I didn't know that.
It depends on the person, right? It depends on your hair. But look, the short of it is, I often don't say this first, but DNA, like I'm lucky my parents have nice hair, and they're also like, my hair is what they call poker straight. And so I think people...
What does that mean?
Poker straight means it's like, I don't know why it's poker, but it's super straight. And so I've been many times I've gone to get my hair cut, and new stylists, if I've ever switched, they'll be like, do you get your hair straightened? Because there's just no waves in it.
Do you think it's because you could poke someone with it?
Yeah, that's what I thought too, like a hedgehog.
There's a reason. I don't know.
Or maybe it's related to a straight flush. I don't know. I'm trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
anyway, says, I got to keep a straight face in poker. Maybe it's like that.
Maybe. But anyway, my hair is like really straight, and because of that, you can see the lines in it. So the truth is, my hair is like nothing special. Like you're looking at it today, and you're like, it's so coiffed, and I'm like, guys, like, yes.
You woke up like that bullshit, and I know you.
No.
How dare you?
And maybe
I don't lie. We have cool friends.
Maybe I underestimate that all I've learned and how to do my hair, and like I said, from my mom, and it seems so simple to me. I'm like, okay, let me tell you what I did today, everybody. I woke up, took the shower. Yeah, I conditioned. I actually condition every day now because I use so much hairspray and stuff. And just wherever my hair's at, I notice I need it. That's me. If your hair is, anyway, you don't need to condition every day if it doesn't feel like it. So anyway, I did that, and then I did a little mousse blowout, and a blowout is not fancy. I literally just ran my fingers through my hair, like pulling up the front, like to give it a little volume, okay? And my hair being the way it is, I just put a little hairspray on there.
I'm sorry. Doesn't a blowout require a blow dryer, thus adding the blow part?
Yes, a blow dryer.
Okay,
See, am I
so
underestimating
you used your hand and a blow dryer. Got it.
Yeah, and a brush sometimes, just depends.
Getting more and more complicated.
So get
the
a
more
little
you get
lift.
cross-examined, I see.
Maybe I underestimate it. It's not that hard, though. And so that's my recommendation. If you care about your hair, I mean, just get a haircut from, I'm sorry, stop going to freaking Supercuts. Tim, freaking,
I know, right?
Man, sometimes they come out good.
My wife now.
Oh, she did a great job. That's right. Yeah. Man, I'm going to have to, like through Bubble Boy, can she like get the arms? Can Jen cut my hair?
I'll wrap her up in that Slimer costume she has, and she'll come over there and you'll.
Yeah. But anyway, just get a decent haircut. Try different haircuts as well. People get so used to the one, and then they go to someone who, by the way, how many times have you walked out of a haircut that you're like, I don't know, it's not that great. Well, then go to somebody different and spend the extra money. It's someone who can like help you. That's a big part of it. Just
Kevin.
Care.
Oh no! Oh yeah, I got it. Hold on, Kevin, do you hear me?
Yeah.
In the chat, we have the final day of Fransmas from December 14th, 2007. All right, cool. You got it.
Yeah, you can. There actually is, for future reference, there's some YouTube channel, I believe. But Mark Nix did archive all these on IGN. That's another gift that
he needs to exist. You know what I mean? Because there, you can see Fran if you're.
We'll have that as the back.
Oh, you guys can't hear it.
I can't hear it now. But this is the fan. Now, look at you like trying to stop him. First off, look at the hair here. This is what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I had long.
This is a different fucking person than the Fran we know now, right?
That's the Kurt Cobain, haircut.
Sure, yeah.
Why is there a tetherball?
He was playing tetherball at his desk.
That was another Fransmith thing, right? Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that was Jesus Fran.
This doesn't look like he's doing it in a fun way. This seems just malicious. Like you know what I mean? Like if it's all set up, and then he just puts something on, like a tray that has everything set up, and he puts it on the cubicle. I feel like that's, but like Kevin, you're like begging him to stop.
That's it. Kevin, by the way, when you tried to get me to crack, because there was like, I just want to see Fran like crack. That's what Nix was doing. So you can relate to that, right?
I've never tried to get you to
crack.
He
does it all the time.
No,
he tries to get me.
First of all, I succeeded cracking you.
I was going to say, right? if Kevin wanted you to crack, you'd crack.
You're probably right. Anyway.
I'm going to jump forward because,
Yeah, no, this is just,
this is how long it went on. He's setting up the kite. Yeah, he's over my desk. This is at IGN in a freaking, this is like IGN after a decade. So we had grown up by then. Yeah. This type of stuff would still happen if it was the right day at IGN. So it hasn't changed. I love that about the culture.
Sam Claiborne won't let this happen anymore.
Sam,
all right?
Let it happen. You
Tina Media, stop this in its tracks. All right, why are you guys not doing something right now? Make work.
Look at me. I'm just trying to work so hard, and I'm so mad at him.
Those were the days when you could go to BJ's and have a freaking 7-hour lunch or whatever with Dunham.
Oh my goodness!
Remember those days?
Oh man, those were glorious.
Drew Tendo 64 has 2 here and says, number 1, Fran, if you had to give up one thing between video games and hair products, what would it be?
Like hair products?
Yeah, you can never use products in your hair again, or you can never play video games.
Yeah, what are you crazy? Definitely.
Well, I don't know. We don't know about you sometimes,
Well, I just work like this. So
his second part though is this. I'm curious, Fran, what game did you review / play at an event that changed how you saw gaming and made you think, quote, wow, this is the future right here?
Woo,
right?
Man.
Yeah, that's a big
question.
I
played at an event. That makes it so very specific. So it's probably like an E3. It sounds biased, but truthfully, when I saw Metroid Prime running on GameCube in Nintendo's booth, which stood out against everything else they were doing overall, and they run at 60 frames a second, and I went in there to like capture the gameplay. I played it. I was blown away, and it was that. I was like, this is weird to say now, right? PC gaming kind of starting to cross over with console gaming in terms of the quality and shooters, and so probably Prime, seeing what that team did. They were also an all-star team, if you didn't know, Retro Studios. They hired all these super smart people from Wing Commander and Quake. The guy who did, I believe, Capture the Flag gameplay mechanics, his name was Zoid something, was one of the gameplay programmers for Metro. Anyway, that one blew me away, and rightly so.
Final question from the friend zone comes from Lexi Gunner. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, kindoffunny.com/Patreon to be part of this. Hey, Fran, who would win in a guitar off between you and Andy?
Right now, Andy,
Yeah?
because I am so out of practice. And Andy's great, so I don't know. I'm just gonna give it to Andy, but I do want to say I've been playing since I'm like 12. I'm just out of practice.
Okay.
So I don't know.
You
I
played
think
a Kind of Funny prom. You were the first dance. You know what I mean? You
that's
did great.
true. What I'd like to do is instead of having a guitar off, I'd like to have a guitar with
okay.
Andy. That would be great. We should band together and play some music.
Okay. And then my final question before I let you go and stream something probably on twitch.tv/FM3_. Give me your favorite Nick Scarpino story from knowing him from forever.
Favorite Nick Scarpino story. Oh, I should have prepared one of these. Let's see. Give me a moment.
No problem. While you do that, I can do the outro. So this can be the final thing. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is We Have Cool Friends, the cool show. We interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. Fran is doing amazingly cool stuff over on twitch.tv/FM3_. Go over there, follow, subscribe, all that jazz. Remember, of course, if you use the Epic Game Store too, he has a creator code Fran Mirabella, all one word. You can do that to support him. To support us and get your questions read on the show and get it ad-free, patreon.com/kindoffunny. Of course, like I said, ad-free. Get your questions read. Have a great time. You can watch live on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, like so many are right now, like Sparkler17. Remember, of course, if you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime, we'd love it if you gave us or Fran your 30-day subscription that you don't automatically renew, so you need to give it away each and every time. I believe we'll be back Monday. I will tell you on Patreon and Twitter who the person that will be on that episode will be. Fran, back to you. Nick Scarpino stories.
Be honest, man. I'm struggling.
You don't like him? He's not a friend.
No, I love Nick. It's like everything he does is awesome. And I'm having trouble like singling out something specific. I don't know if it's from streaming 30 days in a row. And I hate to leave. I know people would love a good story. I feel like I got to like rifle through. Nothing stands out other than like there's obviously the famous, there was a story about me, but the Japan trip and the banana nut muffin and going with them and doing that. But that's about me.
I'd rather start with Fran's Closet because it came up in the thing earlier. Fran's Closet, and you can correct me as I go here. Nick Scarpino doesn't know jack shit about video games, and you hire him because you got fleeced into having him work there. Mm-hmm. PlayStation's like, we're going to let you see God of War 2 God of War, right? It was original God of War.
I think it might have even been 2.
Was it God of War 2? It was 2. You're going to get the exclusive on God of War 2. You'll show the first footage of it ever. And they turn it over to you guys, and Nick turns in Fran's Closet, which is like a 7-minute sketch of them going into your closet and finding Nick, and it's like his first week, and there's God of War doesn't show up for like 6 to 7 minutes of this thing. Yeah. Did you look at this and you're like, this is great, put it up?
No, I was terrified. This is obviously Fran's Closet. So I think maybe that's why, again, I was struggling. Like so many people. Like it's as much of a Brennan and Ty story as it is Nick and me, and it was called Fran's Closet. Anyway, if you don't know, it does have a funny story that Nick is very related to, and obviously doing it and being a star in it. But actually, it all starts with like Nick and Brennan coming over to my desk, and they're like, hey, if we're gonna rent some like props, how much money could we have? And I was like, I knew what budget we had, which was mostly for freelance, and I was like, well, it's the end of the month. It's like, how much are you looking for? I was like, 300. They're like, yes. Their eyes lit up. I think they were expecting like 100. So they go to a local prop shop that Nick, being just from the producer cred, looks up, and they get every prop. This is how Fran's Closet happened. They bought with that budget as many things. Every costume, every rack of wardrobe. So you're looking at it now.
And for the record, I exaggerated, but I'm not that far off. You don't see God of War 2 and the God of War exclusive here till 2 minutes and 30 seconds out of a 6-minute and 50-second video.
This was like such a twisted, and again, Brennan, being a part of this too, this edit. But anyway, so Nick, spearheaded a lot of, I think, the prop stuff, and then they come back with like garden gnomes and like these outfits, and they just used everything. I guess, did we have whips? I know there was whipping sounds at some points. But this was sort of like the video team. It was almost the pinnacle of madness of the team wanting to do creative stuff and quite frankly, like crying out to do it. But we always had to just do like a video review or go do an interview, which there's nothing wrong with that stuff, but it wasn't like cool. Yeah. And this was like, we have a little time. He said we could spend some money, and it is about God of War. So let's make it happen. But just honestly, Nick's performance in this, like it did, yeah, it blew me away. Like he
Fran,
stayed in character so long.
how aware were you? Like, were you part of the planning phase when it came to this, or was this something
No.
that they were like, "Hey, here's the final product. Thanks. We'll see you later."
No, I was there along the way, but it was like sort of light check-ins of like I mean, I saw them building it out. Like they were in the room, like putting all these props in there. I mean, yeah, at some point, Craig
like,
in the sombrero in the
did you
background
try to
shows
stop
he's
it?
naked. No, I never tried to stop it, but I
I can
definitely
only
tried
imagine
to
what
temper.
Do you
PlayStation
think
thought when they're
maybe you
like, oh, great, I'm
should've?
glad this game that looks beautiful is like covered in this shitty ass grindhouse filter.
Yeah, yeah, they're beating like a guy in a noose with like a bat. It was insane. So I'd love to hear more about Nick's version of the story of what I actually probably said. But I think I remember walking in, it was mostly just like, well, the biggest thing I remember about it though was seeing the edit and getting into a fight. You know, not much. These are like normal with Brennan, who was, you know, the video editor on it for the most part. And I was like, dude, this intro. And it always became that with on projects like this. They're like, you're like killing the fun, man. You're going to like ruin this. And I was always trying to like, speed things up. And I was like, fine, just leave it. And so that's why when you watch the intro, yeah, it takes 2.5 minutes to get to God of War. Which was not the standard that we set. But I was like, you know what? This is like, again, them crying out to do something creative, and like, it was so twisted, and it's legendary. I don't know what it is.
It is. It's definitely
Beyond-
legendary.
It's legendary, to say the least.
Fran, thank you so much for being one of our cool friends.
Thank you for having me. This is so awesome. You have such a killer community, and so many of them have been supportive. And also shout out to everybody who supported me on Twitch as well in the days before. Kind of funny if you knew me before then. Just such an awesome community of people here. I rarely see communities like this. I just wanted to say that much, right?
We're
Like
very
I think
lucky.
you know that. That's why you call them best friends, and you say it's true because it is true. But I have that within my community too. I know beyond this, and if they're out there and maybe coming here for the first time, I just wanted to thank you guys. We got so far to go, but it's been awesome. I'm on day 30 straight or something of streaming. I just been saying 30 days because it's starting to cross over a month.
You should
But
probably
we're gonna
celebrate with some Division 2 tonight with me. You know, that's what you should do.
I'm down. I was
Come
already
on.
warming up last night. If
Let's
that
get out
happens,
there. We got
great.
manhunts
But,
to do out there.
Can I
But yeah,
come?
thank you so much for having me.
You
on.
can, Kevin. Yes, I've been trying to drag Kevin back into the division. We played some Borderlands this weekend. I think I can get him into the division.
I'm
Did
a
you
level
download
25,
Warlords?
so I'm
Did I
pretty
tell
high
you to
up
down-
there. You know.
Did you download Warlords like I told you to?
No, but I have super fast
damn
internet.
it.
I have super
Okay,
fast
okay,
internet.
okay. Then download it. Just download it now. Just download it now. Get in there. Then
Let's
join
get
me and Fran
together.
tonight. All right. All right. Whatever. Twitch.tv/FM3_. Until next time. It's been our pleasure to serve you.
Thanks all.